Hello, I'm Kevin Crawford, and welcome to the Executive Mirror. And I am here with Dr. Relly Nadler, my associate, and today we are going to talk about developing people.
What a great topic for any leader. How do you develop your people? So I know some of the leaders that I work with, they really are focusing on who's going to take my job. Not every leader has that sense of that's part of my mission, versus I got to hold on to my position, may feel threatened by someone. How do I develop these people, to be their best? And some of the best practices, Kevin, are you having one-on-ones with them? Some of the best practices once a week. Gallup tells us a minimum of 15 minutes. Now, you could be half hour, but that's where you have time to go through their deliverables, but also to ask some of the questions about where you're going. What's the next step for you? We talked about what's your opinion on this, where the person feels valued by that. And a question that is a great one, and we've talked about sports before, the idea, tell me, Kevin, what's your best day? What's your best day look at? So that's data or information for me. And how do I take some of those components to have you have more of your best days? There's some things that you don't necessarily like, and kind of a takeoff of that question of the best day would be, what brings you the most energy? And you want your people in flow, and can you help them get more of that and maybe delegate some of the things that's a drain and maybe they're just mediocre, and how do we keep them at their best, doing their best?
I like that. And if our listeners don't understand flow, can you describe that? Because it is powerful, isn't it?
It's powerful. And it's where you hear athletes say it all the time. They're just got the rhythm. Time goes by faster. And so here's the way I would describe it. You think about your strengths. So you're in your strengths and time goes by fast and you're just enjoying it. And so some of the questions would be, what is your strength? And then also there's the before that. Oh, I'm going to get a chance to do this presentation, or I'm going to work on this creative project. So energy before, energy doing it, where time just kind of flows and your focus really is around this attention focus. And then at the end of the day, can you focus back on it? It's the warm glow. And so for our listeners, if you're not sure about that for yourself or your team, it's those three components. And where are people feeling energized in those three components?
Often referred to as the zone.
The zone.
Correct?
Exactly.
One of the things that I see in the executive world is that most CEOs or presidents of organizations, they don't see that they have a responsibility for developing their people. It's not... Yeah. They haven't been instructed, they haven't been prepared with the idea that developing their people, getting the most out of the people, but also developing for that next level, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
It's just not a priority. We're not instructing people that that's important.
Because it's interesting, is it on their job description? And often I would agree with it, sometimes not.
It's not.
But it comes from the board. So times I've seen it, the board says, who's your successor? Everybody on the top level's got to name a successor. Oh, okay, now it's an action, but they don't necessarily always do that on their own.
Yeah, succession planning is commonplace with executives, but developing their people is not.
Yeah.
And succession planning, in most cases, is assigning who would be next in line.
Yeah.
Not necessarily preparing that person.
That's good.
Or having that person understand what the responsibilities of that next level is.
Yeah.
But just a succession plan is just to identify the players on the team, so to speak.
Yeah. And it becomes that check the box deal. And so what you're saying is going a little deeper. This is where some of these assessments come in, some of the coaching, 360-degree feedback, hearing for their team. Because many of these people on the executive team, they're on the executive team, they go, yeah, I'm probably do most things really well.
Exactly.
There's some research that says about 95% of us think that we are self-aware. And when actually out of a $5,000 sample, the amount of people who really were self-aware, know what motivates them, know what drives them, knows what their triggers are, it's hovering around 10 or 15%. So the work that we do, we can help people notice that, bring it up in a good way, and then say, oh, how can you be more self-aware, and what else do you need to do so that you don't have some of these blind spots?
Right. In many ways, we're kind of the tutor for executives.
Yeah.
You know, most organizations are not preparing their people for these advanced positions.
Yeah.
And okay, you know, that's the reality. But how fortunate it is that they have people that they can go to kind of shore them up and prepare them for those positions. And it's something I know you love to do, and I certainly love to do as well.
And I think because things we've talked about before, they got their own task list, they're worrying about revenue, they're not having these kind of key conversations that are critical. And then how do we have these conversations of really kind of developing these people? And it's all about the bench strength.
Yes. And I come back to the same thing every time. If you don't completely understand the significance and the power of humanity, just in and of itself, then you're going to struggle at that top level.
Yeah.
And you won't be in that top 10% that you often talk about unless you have a compassion for the humanity there and are spending time developing that humanity.
Well, and I think the work that you and I do, we're able to have these conversations. They could have these conversations. They could think about these things on their own. They don't because they're drawn. Their attention, we talk a lot about awareness and meta attention, is to the other thing. So you and I present questions, topics. Sometimes when I'm training coaches, I just said this yesterday, it's forced focus. We are forcing them to talk about the important things, like you said, succession, developing others. It's not that they don't think about that, but they're not forced in this time because everything else is drawing them away from that.
I like that. Forced focus. Well, if you'd like to follow us more, learn more from the Executive Mirror, you can get a hold of us at KC@KevinCrawfordConsulting.com. Thank you.